Welcome back, guys. Welcome back again to the Outer Dimensions podcast. Sorry, we're having some audio issues here. Welcome back again to Dave and Dre in the Outer Dimensions podcast, the channel, the podcast where we discuss movies of every walk of life, sci-fi, action, horror, even a few genre twisting choices further down the line. But welcome to the Outer Dimensions podcast. Of course, I am Dave of Dave's Dimension. Of course, we have Dre.
Yo, what's up, guys? Of the Collector Safe Space. It's good to see you.
Hope everyone's doing great. We did switch platforms. We are over on StreamYard this week, hoping that Thanos will not snap Dre away. We've been having some streaming issues lately. But first, we want to say hello to the man, the myth, the legend himself, the Captain Spaulding. Hope you're doing well. William H. Grimsley.
Big ups to our boy EC Collecting. Thank you very much, brother.
We got Colin up in the chat saying, welcome, gentlemen. William H. Grimsley, good friend of the channel. Consider him a good friend, and he's also an author. He's working on his 4th book.
Nice.
You guys definitely want to check him out. Amazing friend. Thank you for stopping through. Dre, why don't you tell the kids out there what we are going to discuss this week?
Okay, before I do that, Mr. Grimsley, I need to get in touch with you because my wife is an English teacher, and she teaches a lot of stuff of your books and our content that are like something she could use in the classroom. We will talk. So but I just wanted to get that off my chest. Now, to get into what we're talking about, Dave and I have gone back and forth, and it's always fun to have your brother laugh at you, and we can bicker about who we think is the best of whatever, right? Well, we've now brought this debate to the forefront and have created a best of miniseries. Now, this is going to be a short miniseries leading into something that we're going to be doing later, which we'll tell you at the end of the show. But this is the best Spider-Man. Who has played Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, the best? Now, when we look at who this is, we have to go based on a certain criteria. So the criteria that I used in this cheat sheet for picking our Spider-Man was the age of the actor. Usually we kind of been noticing that the age that Peter Parker was portrayed, the minimum was 27 years old as a starting age for the actor. Now, most of these actors are either in their early 40s, mid 20s as Tom Holland, or in their mid to late 60s as 2 of our other ones. The other criteria was who had the highest grossing film. Now, some of them did not have film. Only I think one of the actors did not have film. The other 4 did. And of one of those, obviously, we'll know when you hear it, it was in the billions. So that's needless to say. When I say that, you'll probably figure out who it is by then. So that's the criteria. Now, obviously, there are a lot of popular demand. I mean, I'm wearing my Miles Morales. We did not also, these are live action. So anybody who has played Spider-Man in a live action role, there have been 5 actors. We did not go into the voice actors. We did not no animation, no anything, no video games. It is strictly just who played a live action role.
No ABC, no CBS, Spider-Man Amazing Friends, Spider-Man Unlimited, Spider-Man the Animated Series, Ultimate Spider-Man. None of those are included, including we did not include the unknown Spider-Man who appeared on the Electric Company. We did not include that either. We could
or Spider-Man Web Warriors that was also aired on Toon Disney. So
the Spider-Man that appeared on MTV. There was an animated all CGI series.
Yes.
Voiced by Neil Patrick Harris, of all people.
So we don't count that.
None of those are included.
So when you guys ask us, like, how do you go for your criteria? This is something Dave and I have actually been talking about for several weeks. So this has been about 3 weeks we've been working on this.
Yeah.
So give or take. And now we'll call it the cheat sheet. The cheat sheet. We need to make a song.
Before we bring that up, we're going to come up with a little jingle for that. But of course, our brother from another mother, Duffman's Diorama. The designer, the daimyo of dioramas himself, Duffman, popping through the chat.
Big ups, because he came out yesterday and told me that he's been feeling a lot better. So I'm glad you're feeling better, Duff. Keep getting better and stronger.
You've had a crazy year, and I'm glad you're still sticking with us here.
We love you, brother. Thank you so much.
And by the way, anyone who's watching or listening to this, of course, we are on Spotify and a few other podcast platforms. Don't forget to look us up. We are the Outer Dimensions Podcast. So in case you're just coming through, you don't have time to watch or listen to us, we are available on YouTube. That is our YouTube channel, the Outer Dimensions Podcast. But don't forget, you can download and listen to all of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts from. Great for car trips. Great for, if you're stuck at the office just doing menial computer screen time, you can just listen to us. Listen to us ramble and babble on, guys. So,
and I've had a lot of people catch us on the replay because, hey, we catch you, and that's all right. We're not worried about that. But I will give you guys some analytics at the end of the show, because I've heard good Fortnite players. Thank you, brother. We try. We try to get them dubs. But yeah, we are on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We are also on X, formerly known as Twitter, at the Outer Dim Pod. So I manage that. Dave manages our Instagram, the Outer Dim Podcast.
Yep. And of course, you guys can always email us at the Outer Dimensions Podcast at gmail.com. So we're anywhere and everywhere. And those, you might also be watching us either on the Collector Safe Space YouTube channel or on Dave's Dimension YouTube channel. We're trying to get as much attention as possible as we possibly can.
And also, there's some good news, but we're going to say that till the end of the show, because we do have a specialty episode that'll be coming. So you'll get 2 episodes in 1 week.
On a very special episode of... No, I'm kidding.
Exactly. So just letting you guys know.
There's everyone. I was over on the Outer Dimensions channel in the live chat by myself, EC says.
See, that's what happens.
See, you're never by yourself, Colin. You have us.
You're always with us. Okay, so Dave, can you call up our lovely cheat sheet, sir?
Okay, we are summoning up the cheat sheet right now. Hold on 1 second. There we are.
All right, now, folks,
who is the best Spider-Man? And we're going to start off with one of the earliest Spider-Man. Yes. Some of you kids out there may not even know.
Now, there's a funny story behind this. So let's. No, he's not the first one.
He's not the first one.
No. Go to the first page.
Excuse
me. And all right. Oh, it is Nicholas Hammond. My bad. He was the first one. It's weird. My bad. I apologize. Nicholas Hammond, folks. I'm gonna let Dave do this one because Dave loves Nicholas Hammond.
Yes. I'm gonna let him. I watched this as a kid. Now, those that don't know, Nicholas Hammond, you really wouldn't recognize him, okay, unless you were growing up unless you're a child like me and Dre who grew up we were born in 78. Both of us were. We're vintage.
We're vintage, baby.
Now, this Spider-Man came out in 77. Now, basically what happened was there was a couple Spider-Man direct TV, because back then they did made for TV movies. Okay. Instead of getting like a couple episodes, you get like a 2-hour block, or basically an hour and a half of movie and then 30 minutes of commercials. You'd get that as well as your shows, basically. So instead of going to the theaters, they made this directly to TV, and this also then rolled out into a 1 season run, basically, for the TV show. So as you can see, Nicholas Hammond in the lower corner right there, that's our Peter Parker. He was kind of a cross between what you read of Peter Parker in the comics mixed with a little bit of Clark Kent, I would say.
Yes, I would 100%
like
agree.
A little bit, like kind of like it's your Peter Parker from the comics mixed in with like Christopher Reeve's Clark Kent kind of vibe going on. You still had J. Jonah Jameson, you had Betty, you had all the classic characters there. And yes, if you notice in the lower right hand corner, yes, we do see. Yeah, Spider-Man had some clunky gear because, they kind of had to justify certain things. Now, that bracelet that's very similar to what you might see on Scarlet Spider, how he had his little cartridges and everything around his wrist. if I remember correctly, that was more of a safety apparatus because Spider-Man, the stuntman for Spider-Man, would be swinging, so that was more of a brace for security reasons. And if you notice, you only ever saw him shoot with one arm, not both arms. So that was kind of a thing that they did. And of course, he's got his so-called web cartridges in his utility belt, but that also was a safety apparatus too. So they were pretty clever back in the 70s, but it looked pretty awesome. And that's one of the reasons why I think I always kind of liked Scarlet Spider-Man, because it kind of harked back to this kind of a setup. But yes, it was the 70s. It was a little cheesy. Let's be perfectly honest. I mean, it was 1977. This is when Star Wars was coming out. So you can imagine how sci-fi effects. I mean, that was a major blockbuster, and this was a TV movie. So take what you will. And this is also around the same time of Incredible Hulk and a few others. Highest grossing box office film as Spider-Man, 1977's film made $9 million. I believe that's your translation to what it would have made in 2023.
No, $9 million is what it made back in 77.
Yes.
So
it would have made 46.
Yes, we would. If you look at it now, it was $46 million. That's what the equivalent would be to 2023.
Now, when you say $1 million, you gotta put your little pinky up when you do that. Sorry.
$46 million.
He is currently 73 years old. He is still with us. Nicholas Hammond is still with us. There was rumor that he was going to do a cameo for No Way Home, but I don't believe it actually made the cutting room floor.
No, it never made that, and he was actually in NCIS LA on this past season.
Okay, I'll have to catch up on NCIS LA then.
Yeah, he was like on a single episode of that. He's actually still currently acting.
Yes. So, no, he's probably on the picket line right now.
Well, not obviously now with everything with the SAG, and the Writers Guild, so we all know that. But one of the interesting things was I tried to find movie posters because again that's
gonna be hard.
So these are the 3 movie posters. I would die, as I think one of my new grails will be for the house, to get
vintage posters.
I want a vintage Dragons Challenge poster. Not a reprint. I want a vintage one. That's like one of my new grails to hunt.
Who knows how many of those are actually, or one, how many were actually made, and 2, how many are left in existence?
Well, that movie came out the year we were born. Movie came out in 78. So I want that one. And that's actually a combination of the episodes that were aired on television.
Odds are one of the best places to find it would be like Stan Lee's estate or something like that.
Probably. Yeah. So good luck to me finding that. Rolando.
And he was only 27 years old when he played that role, but he didn't play a young Peter Parker. He played a 20-something Peter Parker.
Out of college. Yeah.
Our J. Jonah Jameson was not your atypical one. Nowhere near J.K. Simmons.
Who I think is still the best one to this day.
Oh, yes.
Next
to Ed Asner voicing Spider-Man. I mean, or voicing JJ.
That menace Spider-Man.
I mean, JK was JK, kind of funny. JK, just saying.
I mean,
J. Jonah Jameson,
have him do it. So
he's great in everything.
So the question on people's mind would be, would we rate him as one of the best? I don't know if I want to rate him as one of the best. I think he is definitely a pioneer.
I'll say this, for that time period, he was the Peter Parker, very much like when Christopher Reeve played Superman for the first time.
True.
A lot of people are like, oh, he's the greatest. Well, he was the one to hit the big screen for us. There was a lot of Supermen who appeared on a small screen. George Reeves. There's many others that go back to the 50s and 40s. But, it's when you get them on the big screen, because a lot of people out there probably never even heard of Nicholas Hammond, let alone knew that there was even Spider-Man content back in the 70s outside of the comic books.
Now, if you had Sci-Fi Channel in the early years of the early 80s,
late 80s, early 90s, when it was actually sci-fi, yes.
Yeah, they actually aired this on weekday afternoons. And sometimes I know they did it on Sunday mornings.
And also FX. When FX Networks first launched, they played a lot of classic Spider-Man, along with Greatest American Hero and a whole host of others.
Hey, we got our boy Millennium Workshop. Thank you so much for coming by.
The man, the myth, Millennium. Just
he's going to be the hardest working man in showbiz. We got him working on
no,
a couple
no,
of projects.
no. Him and Duffman could compete.
I think so. I think we need to bring them on one day, both of them.
Or maybe Millennium could make a helmet and Duffman can make a diorama and they could switch. They could trade.
Oh.
Just putting it out there.
And we could also, hey, if they want to get fancy, they could always make something for our charity that we're going to be doing in November. And we can use that to help donate and bolster some interest. It's up to y'all. I know some people already are talking about that. And that's something we'll talk about.
There's going to be dueling charities out there. I'm just saying.
Exactly. We got a lot. So we will talk about that later.
Yes, sir.
So obviously, again, he's our first, but not our last.
No, Millennium, I'm sorry. We are talking Spider-Man.
Not Spider-Pig.
Peter Porker does not count. I'm sorry.
I wish he did because he's in a classification all his own. So go ahead, Dave.
Now, what are your thoughts on Nicholas Hammond? Because I'm sure you watched some of this.
Okay, so I actually, to do my homework on this, because I felt like I didn't have an exact homework assignment, I watched, because YouTube has it, the Dragons Challenge movie. And I never laughed so hard in my life because it felt like I was watching a Shaw Brothers film with Spider-Man in it. And it was like a lot of martial arts action, a lot of the classic, chop socky film with like a Spider-Man tinge to it. I did like a lot of the espionage.
Which is definitely going to lead into our next Spider-Man we're going to talk about. Yeah, but to me, Nicholas Hammond, he had that kind of he kind of had like that every guy kind of looked to him, he was a little bit more butch than young Peter Parker in the comics, let's just say.
He was built, which I felt like we all know that after every spider bite, or to borrow the line from Across the Spider-Verse, every canon event, Spider-Man goes from frail to buff.
Yeah.
So he does have that like physical build of like, intimidation. Like the guy you could tell he's not like super muscular, but he's definitely, they didn't have padding in the suits.
He was toned, I think is the best way to put it. He had a toned physique. He wasn't overly muscular. Like you kind of would have to put him along the lines of Toby as far as physique, I think goes.
That's how I look at it. Not
that's
like
probably the best way. And we'll definitely talk we'll talk Toby a little bit later, but just like Toby went from being, that scrawny to being like a little toned, like, it's kind of like Flash, he wakes up, he's like, wait a minute, a lightning bolt gave me abs.
Hey,
it happens. All right. So let us move on to the next one.
And this one I love. This is like a personal favorite of mine. And
I saw this action figure at that 80s toy shop this past week. I almost bought it. It is one I do want.
He's an expensive one to find now too. He's about just so when
I have 3 shelves of Spider-Man paraphernalia and figures. So let's just say Spidey's always been a favorite of mine since I was a kid.
And as you guys can see on the wall over here, you guys know I'm a Spider fan, just a little one. So this is my personal, like I'm a little bit biased, but I loved this show. I remember watching this on Disney's website back in the early 2000s. Or I say mid 2000s, they did a 2-year long run of streaming these episodes. So Shinji Todo is the next actor. Now he's currently 66 years old. He had
younger than Hammond was,
he was the youngest, but he didn't play Peter Parker. He played Takuya Yamashiro. He was a race car driver, which I thought was a really cool and different spin because this is not your typical Spider-Man series. This
kind of speed racer.
So this was part of Stan Lee's initiative to work with Japan on crossing over Marvel characters with the Super Sentai I guess genre, brand would be probably more
Yeah, because
apropos.
you get the mech. I don't want to say Zord, but it very much is Zord like.
Oh, it's definitely Zord like,
And
and the story is truly alien. Here's why. As you can see in the upper right picture, you see that there is a bracelet that's like got a yellow bar in the middle of it. This is an alien spider that fled its homeworld on an asteroid, and it made it to Earth. It was a creature that wanted to impart its power to avoid being killed because of the aliens that were coming for it. Now, the aliens are obviously very hokey, typical Sentai villains, and Spiderman, who is Takuya, gets this bracer, and he would have what we call in Japanese a henshin, which means to transform. So he would have a henshin sequence, and he would transform, and then he would gain different things over a 54 episode run, which is a typical Sentai trope. You go 54 episodes. Now, obviously, when I say tropes, if you guys don't know what I mean by tropes, we're talking
patterns.
About it's a pattern. So like the show starts out with him getting his powers. He had like invisibility. He had like his typical spider powers, but he didn't have
an outline of getting things along the line. I mean, we see a lot of that in over the past, I'd say more recently in the past 5 to 10 years, the last 5 to 10 years, we've seen that, especially in Power Rangers. You get like, you get the heroes, they get their powers, and then maybe an episode or two later, they'll get a Zord, and then they'll get like extra weapons after X number of episodes.
And that's kind of that was what happened here. Like he ends up getting like the spider mech, which has been made by Solo Chokojin. It's an actual toy you can purchase, and there are several parts to it that merge together to make the spider mech, and that's what he battled the large monsters with. Now, was there a movie? No, there was sadly no movie. He, though, has been so wildly popular in Sentai culture that he's been in several video games. They've had him as an extra character in Super Robot Wars, which is a game that briefly made its way over here to the States in the early 2000s on Game Boy Advance and 3DS. So if you ever want to play those games and you look and see the mech, he's in there, and you can play as Takuya. If you have good Japanese, good on you, because I can play them. But for those that don't, it's a little bit of a struggle, but it's fun to play. There was not a lot of financial information I could get because, again, this was something that came to Blu-ray within the last 5 years. So there has not been a lot of big Blu-ray sales. Again, this was a very niche. So this is niche instead of niche instead of niche. This is Super Sentai Spider-Man from the 70s, not very well known. So this is before Disney had Disney Plus. So when they streamed it, it was free. So people got to watch this for free. You could have caught this on bootleg and on torrent sites. I have
not that we condone such resources.
We do not condone that. We're just saying that that's what people would have gotten it at. That's where I was noticing a lot of the walls I was hitting when I was looking for information. So that was this. Now, he is the second youngest Spider-Man at 23 years of age when he started, and his career didn't end at Spider-Man. His career kind of blossomed, much like most of these actors have. They've all done other things. He has been, but he stood fixated into the Sentai market. So he's been in Kamen Rider, he's been in Ultraman, he's been in Godzilla, Shin Kamen Rider. He's been in several things. So, do I love him? I think he's great. Is it hokey just like the other one?
Yes.
It is extremely hokey. It is geared towards kids. It's
a
lot more.
You could look at Power Rangers that came out in 1993, and that is pretty much hokey, and that's the Americanized one. So, I mean, yeah, it's, if you watch it, it is dated, but if you're back in the 70s, if you're in the late 70s, early 80s, you would have been amazed by this. And I mean, also take a look at how this Spider-Man looks. He's got his wrist device, of course, but other than that, like his eyes are always like in an action kind of a squint.
Yes, he has,
which I think kind of definitely gives this Spider-Man
A scowl.
a more scowl. Yep. And like Dre said, there is a lot more chopsaki, a lot more martial arts.
Well, again,
Which
this is Super Sentai. This is considered Spider-Man is considered Super Sentai. This is not Marvel licensed it, but it's very martial arts heavy.
Yeah, but honestly, that aside, you would think that Spider-Man would have more of a martial arts type fighting with how he swings, with how he flips, with his spider-like agility. But we don't really get that even in the cartoons and the movies, which I think is something that was always missing.
I'm biased. I would say we do. I think Tom Holland, and I think more with Tom Holland than we did with Andrew Garfield, and definitely more than we got with Toby. But that's again, when we get to them, we'll discuss that.
I think that's just a byproduct of modern choreography, but we don't get it. And I think in like how heavy it is here, I think it's missing.
I don't disagree, because I feel like this was more story heavy. And again, these shows were more like considered Japanese dramas, or called what we call in obviously in the know, it's called J-drama. So it's a lot of these style of show that's again trope like. Think of it like a soap opera. It's male soap opera. You know, women
serials.
like them. So they're serials. So you know, you're getting into the characters. They tell their stories. Blah blah blah.
No, not Cocoa Puffs, guys. Come down.
Exactly. You know, or Magic Spoon, sponsor us. But
serials as in SERIAL serials.
Exactly. So
serialized dramas.
So let's move on to the next Spider-Man, which
I just want to say hello to Ricardo, dropping in our chat. Sorry if we missed you, Ricardo. We're just so engrossed in the Spider-Man topic here.
It's my boy, dude. I love my boy.
Duffman saying hey to Ricardo. Everyone's saying hello.
And we love
Ricardo,
you guys.
Hope you're doing well tonight.
We love you guys in the chat. You always can feel free to carry conversations on. If you guys are willing to chat with us in the chat about what you're interested in or have comments about this, please feel free, because this is kind of where now the money's going to start talking, because these are big. These are big.
And now we have the the youth pastor in training here. We have Tobey Maguire. Now, Sam Raimi took on the franchise of Spider-Man, which is kind of a bit of a departure, but it wasn't his first comic book oriented forte. Because I mean, foray, I should say. I mean, Sam Raimi. I mean, we know him from Evil Dead 1, 2, and 3, Army of Darkness, Ash vs. Evil Dead, of course, Hercules, The Legendary Journeys, Xena Warrior Princess, and so many others, including Darkman and a whole host of others.
Briscoe County Kid.
Briscoe County Jr., get it straight.
Junior. Excuse me.
Hey.
I love it.
And ironic, yes, in all three of these Spider-Man movies, yes, we do get Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi's brother, Ted Raimi, in here as well, like he does with all his movies. This was like our first kind of like real cinematic update, because this is 2002. So we go from what?
No, 2004.
Okay. You have 2002 up here. 2002, 2004.
Yes, I'm sorry. You're right. I look down. I'm looking.
Yes, I am right.
You are. So again, the dates. So just so you guys can understand, and for those listening to us on Spotify, I'm going to just kind of give a quick little summarization so you understand what Dave's reading. So these are the roles that the time periods that he's been Spider-Man. This is going to be the number of times. It's going to be the highest grossing box office film as Spider-Man, and the year and the date. He'll give you that. His current age and his age that when he first was Peter Parker. So that's what I want you guys to know, because these three are the ones that where most fans will draw the line in the sand. So go ahead, Dave.
Okay, so this is our first update from like 1977. No, 79 was the last time we had any. We had the previous Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So we went decades before we get this one. Now, this one there is some criticism, but the fact that this is like our first real treatment in almost 30 years. No, about 20 some odd years. That our first real treatment of getting a Spider-Man. There are some things that hardcore Spider-Man fans did not like. But it wasn't necessarily Toby's acting. It was more of some of the writing, like they had organic webbing that came out of his wrist, which for some fans was like, what? It makes no sense because part of Spider-Man's dynamic was, he wasn't rich. He would sell his photos so he could afford to make his webbing. And there was those weird comical moments in the comics, or like it would create the stress and the drama when he would be out of webbing and he has to try and take down the bad guys. So he has to find another way to do it. So that was one thing that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. It was cool to get kind of an update because we get an updated Spider on the back of his suit. Now, of course, he does make his own homemade suit in the movie, which is always cool. It's, to me, for like a first official major motion picture Spider-Man, I thought it was great. I loved it when it came out. I still have the soundtrack. Yes, I am that guy. I have all 3 soundtracks.
Yeah,
what do you think about? Yeah, we don't talk about Kroger here. And of course, Aerosmith covering the old classic Spider-Man theme. But I mean, there was a lot of. We had some good actors in this too.
Oh, solid! But I didn't even.
William Dafoe as the Green Goblin. And of course, we had Kirsten Dunst as MJ. Not my first choice, but there could have been worse choices. I thought at the time we had better choices out there. Okay, and I didn't really feel like there was chemistry between Toby and her.
Even though they got the MTV Best Kiss for their Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, and who did a little short for that Spider-Man movie awards that year? Jack Black.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And he had an webbing accident, not out of the wrist. Trust me, there's some things you cannot forget.
Oh no, and you're right. Just KBG, Cobain Games, you're correct. He was a bit of a scientist, and this one played up, and this where Dave was mentioning it before. It's you're hitting it on the head. This Spider-Man was the college student, more
akin to the science nerd that was traditional Peter Parker back in the comics. Definitely, he just he didn't have the round specs, and of course, after he got bit by the spider, he didn't need glasses anymore. But speaking of Sentai, I think there's a little bit of fun with that. Remember, there's a scene when Peter, he realizes, hey, okay, I need to, whatever's going on here, I need to kind of get a grip on it. So he's trying to figure out how to shoot his webbing, and you see him kind of like, go Spider, go. Mm-hmm. I think that was kind of like a little Sentai kind of jab or nod right there.
It might have been. I didn't even think about that now that I've rewatched these movies recently. So because they're on Disney Plus now, folks. But yeah, I don't recall that. But if he did it, it could have been a throwback. So
yeah, he was like, "Go webbing, go!" And he's like trying to figure out, and then finally he realizes when he does he twerks his wrist and does the little double finger jab. Yeah, he can shoot his webbing now.
And he has a limited amount too. Like there was, I remember him saying in the movie and I think it was in No Way Home. He made this comment when they were in the lab together, all 3 of them, that he only gets a certain amount of millimeters, or not meters of web. Like
I'm gonna have to rewatch. I don't recall. I
have to double check it, but I remember them making
they were like, wait a minute. They're like, I'm making my webbing. They're like, wait, you have to. Yeah. He's like, you have to make your webbing.
Yeah.
He's like,
also, speaking of Sentai, we do have the Legacy of Nerd in here, and yes, Spider-Man was technically. We already covered that one. You missed it. You just missed it.
I'm gonna go back just so he can see it. Yeah. We did cover. Cover the Sentai Spidey right there.
So we did cover that. So we love our boy. That's our boy. Yep. So. He was the second oldest at this point, and like you said, with about a 35-year gap for us to look at.
And this was after Cider House Rules and a whole I think this might have been he might have been Pleasantville between the 3 movies.
Pleasantville, Secretariat all came
Yeah.
after the first Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, and he kind of like a little while after this, he kind of faded out for a little bit. He kind of faded. Like after,
He
I
had
think
to.
after doing these movies, it might also have to do with the fact that he injured his back multiple times throughout his trilogy of Spider-Man,
Yes, he did.
which made us all think that we would never see him again. Yet he came back in 2021 for Spider-Man No Way Home. I know spoilers. I mean, it was spoiled way before the movie even came out. But I mean, he was a more wholesome take on Spider-Man. We saw regrets, but not in a dark way. Because of course they portrayed they portray Uncle Ben getting killed, and it was his fault, in a way. We had some awesome scenes in this movie, and we had some young actors that would later become some pretty big names. Like, was it I can't say his name.
Joe Manganiello. Obviously, our boy that played the son to Willem Dafoe. Why is it escaping me?
I'm blanking it, but he's most known for like sidekicking with like Seth Rogen and a few others. I'm blanking on his name too. They were in the Ends and so many other movies. He played Harry Osborn. He's best known for like one of his earliest roles was young James Dean. I'm blanking on his name. I do apologize.
Usually we're pretty good with this. Cause it's hilarious. Why is it there, but then they don't show it? James Franco,
yes, who has a brother in the industry as well.
And his brother, we know him from the 20. He'll be in a project we're going to be doing later this year. In a couple of months.
Cobain got James Franco.
Yep. 10 points, Gryffindor.
But we get some. We even get Macho Man Randy Savage. Bonesaw's ready.
Loved it.
And of course, this is like we get in the first movie. We get the first emergence of a true Spider-Man. What I mean by this is, Peter wants to get a car so he can impress MJ. So he comes across this ad for wrestling, and that the winner can get such and such money. So he decides that he's going to make us an outfit. He like spray paints webbing on a shirt. He's got like a little ski mask and whatnot. And he's about to face Bonesaw. And of course, he face Bonesaw at one point. He jumps up because it's a cage match. And he's looking at Bonesaw and he starts mocking him. This is like the first time we see Peter Parker actually being the sarcastic Spider-Man that we know and love. We never saw that in the previous iterations, not really. Even in the 1977 Nicholas Hammond, he wasn't overly comical and sarcastic, So it was kind of it was even though I have my gripes about the trilogy, it was great to have that kind of comedy role where like it's that switch. You get Peter Parker, who's that meek, mild-mannered photographer for the Daily Planet. But then when he puts on the mask, when he's Spider-Man, he could say whatever the hell he wants to JJ and anyone else, and nobody's gonna stop him. Saying that, hey, sourpuss, hey, pickle face, it's saying and whatever he wants to JJ, and he does to J.K. Simmons in this trilogy. But it's great that's we see like, oh, that's a nice outfit. Did your husband make that for you? Like you make those little jabs. You're like, wait a minute, this is Macho Man. You're saying who would say that to Macho Man? And of course he beats him, with his spider agility. He gets gypped. The promoter says, no, all you give is this much. And what happens? There's a guy who's robbing, the office, steals the money, and Peter just lets the guy walk away. He says, well, hey, that's not my problem because that's what the promoter said to him. And later on, that's the guy who carjacked Uncle Ben.
Now wait. Now let's tie this into Across the Spider-Verse for all those fans that have seen the movie, and we'll be getting it on Blu-ray in 2 weeks.
Haven't seen it.
It's amazing. I love the movie. I've watched it already 4 times. Love it.
We know you love it because it's Miles.
It's yes, but the canon event. So in that movie, it talks about what's called a canon event to Spider-Man, which means every Spider-Man has, or anybody that has donned the costume of Spider-Man has the potential to have this event where a father figure character will die. It's usually Uncle Ben. We know in No Way Home. Obviously, folks, I'm going to say this with a huge amount of sarcasm. If you have not seen that movie, it's been out for way too freaking long, 2 years. You know,
No, that Peter had two events. He lost
that
Tony Stark, that was a father figure, and he loses Aunt May in No
but
Way
Aunt
Home.
May, no, but so the canon event though. Okay, so I've actually seen a couple theories.
I'll argue that.
that argue that because the canon event was Aunt May. That's how they tied his. That's also the scene that they showed in Across the Spider-Verse. So they showed Aunt May.
I have to argue that a canon event because, we, as far as the cinematic, the Tom Holland, Stark was looking out for him. He wanted to protect him. He wanted him to start out very low. That's why he made the suit and programmed the suit with certain safeguards, just like a father would.
Don't jump there yet. Because
I'm just saying.
I want to get there. So,
okay.
So because Dave's getting hyped like I am, because I feel that like that bug, like literally the spider bite to want to talk about it. So let me just touch on this.
Okay.
So obviously his highest grossing film out of all his Spider-Man movies, so he has 3.
Mm-hmm.
The first two did not hit nearly as good as what many true Spider fans consider to be the worst of the trilogy, Spider-Man 3, and that one outgrossed the other 2. Now, the reason people said this one was good was because you had Topher Grace, who was Eddie Brock, who was Venom. We had the Venom symbiote. We had the symbiote costume. Obviously, it was not a true Venom because we all know we see that in a different series, which we'll be doing. We'll be covering.
I think people got hyped up because they heard Venom, and they were like, this is, and they didn't get what they wanted.
And we technically got a team-up movie because it was Spider-Man versus 3 of his greatest foes, really versus 2 of his greatest foes, and we're going to leave it at that.
Well, now, also back then, not just in comic book movies, but everywhere, whatever number it was, whatever number sequel it was, that's how many bad guys you had in there. Spider-Man 1, we had Green Goblin. Spider-Man 2, we had Doc Ock and Green Goblin. Harry Osborn taking over Green Goblin. And then 3, we get Green Goblin again, for the most part, for about 3/4 of it. Spoilers, I know. Sandman.
And then we get
Venom. So, but come on, we all know what the highlights of Spider-Man 3 is. Evil Peter Parker.
Oh, see, I can't. That's now this is where strut. Yeah, like when he's doing the dance moves, which MTV and Saturday Night Live, everybody at the time made fun of this. It's memeable now.
Let's see, that's right up there with Wednesday's little dance. I mean, if that movie would have came out now, that would have been like the meme right up there, viral wise with the Wednesday dance. I mean, come on, let's be honest.
I'm not going to disagree.
I mean, come on, but look at that poster though. Tell me that poster wouldn't hype you up seeing. Poster. Yeah, I used to have it. I mean, you get our boy Toby, but then you see the black suit, and I mean that alone gives you chills. I had the wallpaper on my computer. I had it on my phone back in the day. I mean, we all had it. I mean, come on.
Sony Ericsson, because Sony, obviously, for those that didn't know, is the they own the brand of Spider-Man. Yeah. Marvel has the rights, but Sony owns the movie brand. And when Sony was when these movies came out, Sony released a phone, the Sony Ericsson at that time, and they had a Spider-Man limited edition where it came with preloaded wallpapers. It was the phone. It was like this was battling iPhones. So for anybody that was interested in those little kind of odd tidbits of what was going on at the time. So that's how true fans we are.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely something. I mean, I'd say Spider-Man 1 and 2. I'm sorry, I will never say Spider-Man 3 is a good movie. I mean, there is the turning point when Harry and Peter become friends again, but that is very short lived.
And it's a movie tool to get the team up, which they needed, and I get it, but it wasn't one that I appreciated. Again, as a fan of Spider-Man, I did own the action figures. Toy Biz was the one releasing the figures at the time, so I had the black costume. I remember my mom. Okay, mind you, folks, I'm 45 years old. I was in my 20s and my mom bought me action figures. So yes, I'm very proud that my mama, may she rest in peace, bought me action figures because I still love them and still collect them. Don't have them though. Sad, because these figures are worth a little bit of money. So
and the thing is, if you look at it, and we're going to touch on this when we talk about Tom Holland, but it was cool that they brought a villain from each of Tobey's movies forward into No Way Home, because we had Defoe, Green Goblin, we had Doc Ock from Part 2, and then we had Sandman from Part 3. Those three were brought forward into No Way Home. So it's kind of cool that they brought a villain from each of Tobey's movies forward.
Now, can we put Legacies up? His comment. I like what he said. The black suit was a lazy trope to give him the quote unquote edgy Spider-Man that we wanted. Yeah. I agree. It was a lazy. It was very
even
lazy.
Even in the comics, it was just a black suit with the white spider emblem kind of wrapping around. That's all he had. And I mean, it wasn't necessarily. I don't want to say it's a lazy move movie wise, but it was a lazy move from the comic books. So I mean, all they did was just take another suit, another Spider-Man suit, and just kind of, black it out, so to speak.
Now, can we go to the eyes comment too? Because I'm gonna address something there too. He said, I was really disappointed they didn't do like the comics or the animated series. Now, here's the caveat, because there is some news that is going to come out with our next actor that we're going to cover in this. It was recently rumored, and I'm going to say rumored because that's what it is right now, that Andrew Garfield is going to be in Secret Wars, the Avengers Secret Wars movie. Why? Because it's going to be a multiverse level event.
Yes.
And that they're going to have him show up as Spider-Man, his Spider-Man from his universe. Now, why are we as fans kind of excited about this? Because at the end of No Way Home and inside of Venom, Let There Be Carnage and Venom, we now know there is a symbiote sliver that is in New York City.
Yes.
And we also know that there is in Secret Wars, that is the Beyonder storyline where the aliens come from beyond space to attack the Marvel universe.
Let's call that like MCU Prime universe. We'll call that the Prime cinematic universe.
Where they 616 or MCU is 19999. I apologize, folks. I have to be correct. So, attacking the 19999 universe, we're gonna have Venom, the Venom suit, meaning we will have symbiote Spider-Man in Secret Wars.
Ricardo, it is tremendously good, and I swear you might even shed a tear.
It is.
It is great.
It's one of the best movies. It's sad that it came out during the pandemic, but I digress. The Secret Wars suit we're going to see, which is the black and white Spider-Man. Now, are we going to see an attitude change in Holland? I hope so, because it has been before this. The Writers Guild and SAG went into strike. Tom Holland had just signed on to do 5 more movies. Same with Brie Larson, who has signed on to do 5 more movies. Which, if we follow what the Avengers lines are, that would end after the 4th movie in that series would be Avengers Secret Wars and then another Spider-Man movie. So now, we'll see what's going to happen with that.
Personally, what I would like to see is, I mean, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, but because we're going to be talking about, I'm going to wait until we discuss Andrew Garfield completely, because like Dre said, we got that bite, we got that we want to say, but let's just finish up Tobey here. So $895 million made, and he is currently 48. He's older than us.
He's actually the oldest Spider-Man of the three.
Age 27 when he first played Spider-Man. So he was almost 30 when he was playing a high schooler. I'm just saying, it was a different time,
But he actually looked like
everyone was playing. Everyone was playing younger. I mean, let's be honest.
Even Kirsten.
Like Kirsten. Yeah, I'm just. I could say something, but I'm going to behave. But but let's move on to what now. This is Dre's not going to agree with me on this. To me, this is my favorite Spider-Man in live action so far.
Here's what I'm going to do. I want to do Tom Holland. So you can do Garfield.
Listen, if you want to do Tom Holland, it's between you and Tom Holland. That's all I'm saying.
Now, just so you guys know, for those of you, again, that are watching, I have put a picture in from No Way Home for each of these Peter Parkers.
Yes, he has.
That I did that on purpose. So they get their movie poster that was from their best film, a picture from the first film that they were in, and then they got their No Way Home. So, and again, sadly, Andrew Garfield, I think, was a good, and this is my only, I'm going to state this now before Dave gets into it. I know this is Dave's personal favorite. He is the best dark version of Peter Parker you're going to see. I think
he's the best DC Universe Spider-Man you're going to get.
You have to make a DC.
He's so dark.
Yeah, he's so angry. He is. This is him. Now, I'm biased because I love Tom Holland a little bit more, and there's reasons, and I'll explain that when I do my spiel. But I think this, and
coincidentally, both of our favorites are British. That's all I'm saying.
Which is just let's go there. An American character done by British actors.
Just saying. But I mean, for me, Andrew Garfield felt like he was the modern. I don't want to say modern, but he felt like he was a little bit more of an updated Spider-Man. He was kind of the skateboarder nerd. Like he was smart, but like he's rocking a skateboard. I got, you know what? I'm going to put it this way. He felt more, he was an outcast. I mean, more so than just being a nerd, he was a bit more of an outcast, but he still conversated with a lot of different groups, let's just say. A lot, like he knew people of different cliques.
But he also, his parents, you got to go into his origin story.
I will. But I think that's why I am more akin to him. Because in my high school years, I did not belong to a specific group. I was a part of the outcast. So I think I kind of gravitate towards him a little bit more. Now, I'll be honest. When I first saw the costume, I did not like it. I was like, what the hell is this shit? I mean, no, because I mean, when you see the Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit, this is not your typical Spider-Man suit. Not of any variation. But I grew onto it. Like we see the top image right there. We see that top image where we have that spider and the spider legs are kind of like running down the back. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And like he's got gold lenses for his eyes in this first one. We see him build his own web shooters, and these are some pretty high-tech looking web shooters. First he's got like these thick kind of wrist strap braces for his basic web shooters, but then he, kind of updates them and, he makes the suit. I mean, we see him like swinging on chains at first, like doing like literally swinging from chain to chain. And we see him I think he was doing a little bit more stunt work than Toby honestly did. There was a little bit more practical stunt work done for this film, where instead of like CGI him on the side of a truck on the Brooklyn Bridge, we actually see an actual stuntman in the suit hanging on the side of a tractor trailer, and then climbing to the top of it. So we had a little bit more practical effects when it comes to the stunts. We also get a few actors we haven't seen for a number of years. C. Thomas Howell from Outsiders and so many other great movies. He's a father of a young boy who's stuck in a fiery, Astro van, like a family van. And Peter goes in there as Spider-Man, of course, and saves the kid. But and this is a trope that kind of popped into Tobey Maguire and also Andrew Garfield, where they are basically their mask comes off and they reveal themselves. But Andrew did it in a way, and that's something that happened in every Tobey Maguire movie. His mask is removed and it's revealed who he is, which is something I wasn't a fan of during the Sam Raimi movies, but that's that. He actually takes his mask off, hands it to the little boy. He says, he's put it on. It's going to make you strong. I mean, that's like, there's some good writing in this movie, in these movies, I should say. I mean, I don't know. He felt more, he wasn't the meek Tobey Maguire Peter Parker. He was kind of fierce, whether he was Peter Parker or Spider-Man. To me, it was like more of a continuous balance. I mean, we had Martin Sheen as his Uncle Ben, Sally Field as his Aunt May. I mean, I don't think you could get better casting. And who in a friggin' million years would think that you'd get Martin Sheen and Sally Field together in a movie, and it's a comic book movie?
Hold on one second. I want to address Ricardo's what he said. Put up his comment. All right, Ricardo, you're not wrong. You're entitled on this show. Everybody's entitled their opinion. I'm going to read it out loud. So for the people that are listening on Spotify, politics and bullshit aside, I love Holland and Maguire as Spider-Man, but my favorite will always be Garfield as my favorite Spider-Man. My opinion. Sorry if I'm wrong.
Thank you. And Ricardo, you are not wrong. That's why you're my brother.
Listen, obviously Mega Demon let's throw up his there as well. Tobey Maguire is the best Spider-Man in his opinion. Again, folks, this is why Dave and I have gone back and forth with this, because we have very deep-seated. Spider-Man is a character that's been around before our time, and we grew up with the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Spider-Man of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and then the change occurs
Jim
for
Lee.
Us.
What?
When Jim Lee touched on him, which I think was amazing. And it's not Jim Lee, because it was not Jim Lee. That's Todd McFarlane. Sorry, Todd McFarlane, when he did the Torment cover, which is probably one of the most famous Spider-Man covers ever, and it has been reproduced several times over. It's also been the Spider-Man black costume, which Spawn did on the 100th issue of Spawn. So if you guys are interested, those are like Dave and I have talked about doing like separate stuff on the channel for that. But I just want to touch that you guys are not wrong for your opinion. We like hearing when you guys are telling us who you like, who you don't like. Just be respectful.
And me and Dre, we don't agree on everything.
Oh, we don't. But we love. But the fact is, though, we agree that we can know why your reason is valid. And we
can agree to disagree.
Exactly. So I just wanted to say that. I do also want to mention. We didn't get James Franco, obviously, as the Green Goblin in this, because Oscorp does exist in this universe, and as Oscorp, we had Dean.
We got very close to it. And I'm going to get to that. And
I just wanted to throw Dean DeHaan.
I mean, we got this close to getting a Sinister Six movie, and it would have been so glorious.
It's okay. So Dre's been doing his homework. Other rumor coming out of this: Kraven got pushed to next year because they want to make sure.
I wasn't surprised.
I wasn't surprised about that at all. That needed. Madam Web got pushed to next year. That effing needed to happen. So the Sinister Six movie has been kind of put on the back burner by Sony.
Mm-hmm.
But the rumor is we are going to have like backdrop characters of the Sinister Six show up in Kraven, Madam Web, possibly Secret Wars.
If done right. That's what I'm going to say.
Now, in No Way Home, if you are as anal as most people are, where you look at the actual
cracks in the multiverse, you can see silhouettes of Rhino and a few others.
Rhino, you see silhouettes for Electro. You see, well, we already had Electro was in the movie, but you see silhouettes for
different
Rhino.
Variations of Electro.
That's true, and I did know that there was the two other silhouettes that they showed besides Rhino, which was Kraven and the female Doc Ock. So I just wanted to let that out there. If you guys are curious,
which is Spider-Verse related, of course.
So and supposedly they want to put her in a live action, but I'm not going to go. I don't want to interrupt this. Go ahead.
Why not? Now, I mean, this was a completely different one, and also instead of having J.J. Jonah as the main protagonist in this one,
wait, take a pause. Go put up Ricardo's thing so you can read his comment.
hold up. Kind of tired if the squeaky voice. I'm not sure what that. Okay. Let me go here. I don't want to see Tom Holland not play such a boyish Peter Parker. Kind of hinted it going that way in the next movie, possibly. Depends on what the next movie is going to be, though.
He's not being boyish. They've already geared that that's not going to happen. But I do like what Ricardo said.
Ricardo, well, shit. I don't care about you guys, but I love you guys. You guys are awesome. You guys are awesome.
And the Lady Rhino, no, it's a Lady Doc Octopus. So if you have seen, if you saw Into the Spider-Verse, the very first of the animated films from 2018, we were introduced to Octavia, and Octavia, she is the Doc Ock from Spider-Gwen's universe, but somehow she was in Miles's 616. I don't know how that they still haven't explained, but that's something I wanted you guys to know. Okay,
so here you go. These are variations from the comic books. But here's her from Into the Spider-Verse right here. But we had more of a frisky kind of female
Doc awesome.
Ock. Oh yeah.
Wait, if you scroll up, there's the kids one too. If you scroll up,
yeah, right here.
No, the other one next to it. That's for the cartoon that my daughter watches on Disney Plus.
Okay. But you can see, there's different variations. So it is a thing. It is a thing, guys. Let's go back to Chi-Chi here. But I mean, we had Dennis Leary as Gwen Stacy's father.
Yep.
And, who totally hates Spider-Man, yet then she finds out that Peter's Spider-Man. And I mean, look at it from that perspective. Yes, we got a movie without MJ. Yes, thank you. Because I think if you're going to start out Spider-Man, you need to not have MJ. You need to have Gwen, but they didn't do that with Tom Holland, but that's neither here nor there. But I still like kind of what they did with it. Mm-hmm. But for Andrew Garfield, they went with Gwen Stacy. And of course, there's a lot of speculation going on. I don't think it's valid, but the actress who played Gwen Stacy kind of was sporting a Spider-Gwen kind of haircut recently, and everyone was losing their friggin' minds over that. I mean, maybe she was doing it like out of a nice whimsical support for, Across the Spider-Verse. Who knows?
No, the rumor, that's a rumor that they looking to hire her for it.
Yeah.
She's looking to go for it because they don't want Haley Stanfield because she's already in the MCU.
Well, Haley Steinfeld, I don't know if she would go blonde. That's the thing. But definitely, I mean, the look of Gwen, and how am I blanking on Emma Stone? I mean, to me, in the comics and even in Into the Spider-Verse, and I haven't seen Across the Spider-Verse, but I imagine the same. She's got that look. She's got that Emma Stone kind of look to her. So I mean, it would just make sense to go with someone whose features are already there, and plus she's already played Gwen. And I think she would kind of love to play a displaced Gwen, like a Gwen from another universe. And imagine if they actually had Spider-Gwen meet up with our boy here in Secret Wars.
That's the rumor.
Okay.
That's the rumor.
To me, personally, as a Spider-Man fan, as a Andrew Garfield fan, that is the happy ending he deserves. Because we saw him save Tom Holland's MJ in almost an identical kind of situation that his Gwen died in Amazing Spider-Man 2. So to see that, it was kind of like, and I have gripes about Andrew Garfield's portrayal of his Peter in Tom Holland's movie. I do have gripes about that because as far as that goes, to me, they made him as like all these years after Amazing Spider-Man 2, it was like he became very self-loathing. He started to become almost of a recluse, I would say, in some cases. I mean, me just catch up here.
Yeah, catch up with the chat for a second. I got my wife.
Ricardo's like, hey, Dave and Dre, thank you for letting me put comments on the stream. Thank you. You guys are awesome. No, thank you, man. You know, everyone's comments are welcome here. Within reason. I say within reason. You guys are giving me spoilers for all these movies. Yeah, I'm sorry, but some of these movies have been out for a couple of years, bro. So we you know, when you're talking about movies, you just can't hold back. I mean, to me, Andrew Garfield, he's my Spider-Man. Now, what Dre was mentioning before is there's a little twist to this Peter Parker's family. His parents had to drop him off with Aunt May and Uncle Ben because
Sally Field and who was it? Sally Field and God, why can't his name is escaping me?
Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen, thank you.
Yeah, poser. No, I'm kidding. But they drop him off there because they're being chased. Because Peter's father is a scientist who's on the cutting edge, made these genetic spiders that had the potential to basically create a whole new science all onto itself. Oscorp, which is what he worked for, were basically trying to hunt him down because because he found out what they were trying to do with it. It had to do with stuff for Mr. Osborn. And so Peter's parents went on the run. And what we don't realize or don't find out until the end of the movie, of the first movie, at the end of the second movie, I think it was, that his father's still alive. His mother was killed, and there's some bad guys on the airplane who were trying to kill them both, but his father survived. But Peter's spider abilities only worked on him because his father used his own genetic code in the spiders, so that only someone with his bloodline could unlock it. And that's why when the spider bite happened on Peter, he got powers. Anyone else, it'll cause terrible mutations, which it did with Harry Osborn, of course. So, I mean, it was a different kind of a take on the Spider-Man lore. This is much different Spider-Man. I loved his comedy, with the bad guys. I mean, to me, I love the Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. I love the instrumental score to the movies. To me, Garfield is my Spider-Man, but let's take a look at those numbers. It still did not beat Tobey's numbers. Nope. $758 million. Right now, he is age 39, so he's young. He's still a young buck. He was 30 years old when he played Peter Parker. So the oldest Spider-Man premiere, correct?
He is the second oldest Peter Parker. He's right now. He is.
Who's the oldest?
Okay, the oldest is Hammond at 73.
No. I'm talking about when they first started Peter Parker.
Oh, he is the oldest Peter Parker.
That's what I said.
Yes.
And when he premiered as Peter Parker, that's what I said.
Yeah, so when he premiered as Peter Parker, he was a high school student graduating to college because he was a senior at Empire State. Or he's a freshman going into being a freshman at Empire State University. When he was in Amazing
Yes, I am an effer.
Now there is a little caveat to this. He is the first Spider-Man to only get 2 movies. His career was sadly cut short because of Sony having funding issues at the time. There was a brief recession we had in 2015.
Well, that and they're kind of dicking him around too a little bit at some public venues.
Yeah,
they were kind of being a dick to him, so he kind of like pushed back on. And honestly, if you were him and you felt like you're kind of being strung along by the studios, I mean, sometimes when push comes to shove, you're gonna shove back, and that's kind of what happened here.
Yeah, and sadly, like he left the mantle of Spider-Man, but then he went on to do other good movies.
Yes.
Which I've seen a lot of his stuff, and I love what he does outside of Peter Parker. It was great.
Yeah.
But
what was the war movie? He was a medic who wouldn't pick up a gun. I'm trying to think of the movie. It came out like 2 or 3 years ago, I want to say.
Yeah, I saw.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know the movie you're talking about because I saw it was really good.
Yeah. But scary thing is, he still looks He looks
the
good for
same
his
way.
age.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he's aged at all. Like the Toby, you could tell has aged,
Yeah.
but Toby
Yeah.
is the oldest of the Spider-Man.
Youth pastor Toby.
Yeah, youth pastor Toby, which we'll get to that when we get to my favorite Spider-Man. This iteration of Spider-Man, I think, was by many fans a great This was Sony's way of trying to capitalize at a time when we did not have a multiverse Spider-Man. Now, mind you, this is also the height of the Avengers franchise. So Marvel was looking to try to capitalize on bringing him into the fold, but they didn't know how to they didn't want to bring a dark Spider-Man into the fold. That was their thing. Now, also,
and he was rage. He definitely had rage too.
Oh yeah, he there's a lot of things that I loved about this character in these two movies. I will state this, that another little Easter egg that Hacksaw Ridge, that's what it was. Because we just got it from Ricardo. Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you.
The other tidbit before we move on to Tom Holland, so because I'm going to cover Tom. The other little tidbit was, if you are a fan of Easter eggs, and I know, Ricardo, you said you like the fact that we kind of give you the little breakdowns. When you watch the Amazing Spider-Man and the sequel, make sure you pay attention to the briefcase, because it is rumored that in this universe, S.H.I.E.L.D. did not exist, as far as we know. But Oscorp had government contracts to make equipment, and the idea was, in this universe, S.H.I.E.L.D. did not exist, but Hammer did. And Hammer was in Iron Man 2.
Yes.
So this was like the government contract that made the Rhino suit. This is the stuff that made the suit for Harry's Green Goblin.
Yep.
And which really was more the Hobgoblin than it was the Green Goblin.
And who knows? Maybe they had some hemorrhoids there too.
The hemorrhoids. I love that. That's one of my favorite things about Iron Man 2. But I digress. So S.H.I.E.L.D., there was ideas that he was a government spy working for Hammer, which would have been the S.H.I.E.L.D. of this universe. So let's move on to Tom Holland, who is probably...
Hey, for all we know, it could have been David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury. We don't know.
We don't. That would be hilarious if that was true. Disney, let me write.
So here we go. We're going to jump over to Thomas Holland.
And my favorite.
But before we do that, one little more fun fact about Andrew Garfield. He was on Doctor Who.
Yes, he was.
Yes, he did.
All right. Now, folks, this is my absolute favorite Spider-Man. Why? I needed a Spider-Man that was young, cocky, didn't understand the world, would put on a suit to save Brooklyn. You know, I'm a New York boy. He's a New York boy, a city boy. I get it. And he's
Queens.
nerdy. Queens was Captain America. Spider-Man's from Brooklyn. Thank you. I know this Spider-Man. Even though technically they're all supposed to be from Queens. Or all from Brooklyn, and they're not. Which we're going to digress into that whole canon crap. But so, obviously, he has been the current Spider-Man since 2016. Now, obviously, we did not have a Spider-Man movie in Homecoming because that was his first movie. Homecoming, correct? No. Spider-Man was in...
War.
Pardon?
Civil War.
Yes, he was in Captain America Civil War. That's where we first get our tinge of a Spider-Man, which I absolutely love Marvel for interweaving his story very seamlessly into Tony Stark being the father figure he never had, the hot aunt in Marissa Tomei, who was, she's smoking hot for like somebody in her early 50s.
But she can't make a date low to save her life.
Yeah, the date low. I love Tony.
And no Uncle Ben. No mention of Uncle Ben ever.
That's been a point of contention among several Spider-Man fans on Reddit, on several different places. So if you guys are ever curious, check out Reddit. There are some great threads about why there was no Uncle Ben in this universe and why we don't know about his parents. So that's kind of an interesting thing, because in the other two Spider-Man movies, we at least have heard Peter Parker's parents died in Tobey Maguire's movie, and he was adopted by Ben and May. In this one, in Garfield's universe, we see his parents. We know his dad's still alive, but we know his mom gets shot and killed in the
Yes.
plane. In this one with Holland, we have no idea why a 16-year-old, supposed to be, is living with his aunt and whatever happened. And I like that they've left it very ambiguous, which I heard we're going to dive into those during his next trilogy. So in 2016, we get him introduced into the movie series, and his first film is obviously Spider-Man Homecoming.
And he's pretty smart because, like, when Stark comes across him, he's like, dumpster diving, like, because he's got like an old Mac from like at the late 80s, early 90s. Yes. Like, he's got old retro tech, but he's like fixing it up and selling it for people. I mean, that's how he's learning stuff on his own. He's it's kind of a modern update of the nerd,
So he's the savvy Peter Parker, which I absolutely love. Now, when I say pending trilogy, we all know that there was Civil War. We see him in Infinity War. We see him in Endgame. We see him in Homecoming, Far From Home, as well as No Way Home. We do know that before everything happened with the strike, he had signed on for a pending trilogy as well as 2 Avengers films. So that is what they've stated. Now, his highest grossing movie was No Way Home, which to me is a great way to end that trilogy in the MCU, to start Spider-Man off as a solo street level hero.
But look at that. That's not even million. That's billion.
Yes. So just so people hear the number, 1.922 billion USD. This, when I was aggregating the numbers, this is a combination of streaming services. This is a combination of theaters, because the theaters had just opened up and you had to get your tickets and you had social distancing. This film was humongous. It was the film that a lot of people felt saved us during the pandemic, because we needed a Marvel movie to do that, and this was it.
I think it not only saved us, but, like, I'll be honest, I cried.
Oh, I did.
I teared up in a couple parts in that movie. To me, I wanted to see, we got all the Spideys together and they recreated the meme.
Yes.
That we have at the top here.
Yes. So that meme, I did that very purposely to tie everything in. So that meme that we saw in Into the Spider-Verse, where they're all like, you, that all, they recreated that, and it is wildly popular. Now, again,
and the chemistry ahead. Though.
Yeah, the
chemistry between the 3 of them, like, Holland, Toby, and Tom. I mean, you'd think they were brothers.
And that was so Dave's just hit on that, and that's where it kind of it tugged at my heartstrings. It was they have something that I think Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse touches on in the animated universe, and it definitely touched here, that all the Spider-Men that are linked by the web. And when you watch Into the Spider-Verse, they're linked into that web of what connects everybody together. And that's a huge thing, because they felt that pain when May died. They all felt that sadness, that despair. So, but I'm going to give Dave, go take over for 1 second.
Will do. Now, even though this is not my top numero uno when it comes to Peter Parker, he's still a great Peter Parker. He's youthful. As you can see in the numbers here, he premiered as Peter Parker at age 20, the youngest Peter Parker / Spider-Man. He's currently only 27 years, so he's got decades to come back and do Spider-Man. Like Dre said, there is a contract with options to do 2 Marvel movies included, or 2 Avenger movies, but to do 3 more movies, who knows? Those movies could be spread across every 2 years, every 3, or hell, even 5 years apart. We don't know. But I mean, he was very youthful, and he was, I think, him and Tony Stark, Peter Parker and Tony Stark, it was a match made in heaven. Stark, needed some responsibility, and he took the kid under his wing. and Peter needed a father figure. They worked perfectly together. Him and Robert Downey Jr. I mean, if you saw interviews with these two guys, I mean, you think again, family situation going on here. But I mean, he was very youthful and he was kind of funny in a way because he would keep dropping pop culture references like, "Hey, I can have an idea. Did you ever see this really old movie called Aliens?" I mean, come on, it kind of makes us all feel old. I mean, he's a youthful character. He's a very likable character. I mean, throughout Spider-Man, Civil War, we see him in. Of course, the Endgame movies, Spider-Man: Homecoming, No Way Home, Far From Home. I mean, it's a very likable Peter. You're watching him. You're basically hanging on every situation that he's going on, and you're feeling the frustrations and the anger. Like in Homecoming, when he's facing Tony. Tony Stark's telling him, "Hey, you're not ready. Go back to being a neighborhood Spider-Man." He even strips him of his suit at one point, and he proves that he doesn't need that suit. He goes back to wearing his junky clothes, and he shows the world. I mean, he shows all of New York. He shows Happy. He shows Stark that it's not the suit that makes him, because Stark's even at one point says, "Listen, if you're nothing without the suit, then you don't deserve the suit." I'm paraphrasing, of course. I mean, you feel with this kid at every moment because he's trying to prove to his father figure, he's trying to prove to people that yes, he's ready for bigger things. He takes down these bad guys who are using alien tech, takes down Michael Keaton as the Vulture, saves Stark's equipment, saves pretty much the world. And then, of course, we get No Way Home when he's traveling, or not No Way Home, but Far From Home. He's going on a school trip, and Nick Fury's tapping him for support. I mean, Nick Fury doesn't just tap any old, masked crusader to kind of work for him. He taps, Peter Parker.
Oh
And of
yeah,
course,
so
by that time,
you're talking about Far From Home. Okay.
he's got Edith. He's got the glasses. Of course, he's lulled in by Mysterio. He's fooled by Mysterio. I mean, I was just saying how Tom Holland's Peter Parker, even though he's not my number one favorite, he's one that you are hanging on with him. You're going through each adventure. You're going through every fumbling, every action with him. You're hanging on to see what's going to happen to this kid next, and how is he going to overcome it. Like when Stark strips him of the suit. Well, if you're nothing with the suit, you don't deserve the suit to begin with. But he pulls it off because he's wearing his old gear, his original gear, his goggles, his little hoodie, and he friggin' saves the world, saves Stark Technologies and stuff. Kind of proves that, yeah, he is worthy, whether he's got the suit or not.
Now I'm going to jump in. I appreciate it. Just we're adjusting to the schedule, so I have to talk to you after the stream. We may have to adjust our schedules just to help with the wife.
No, not a problem.
So I just wanted to let you know that. So I just wanted, for our listeners, that's why I went silent for a little bit. The big thing with Tom Holland, why I like him, is I think he's the perfect Spider-Man for the generation of what we have now, of what we're looking at as a young actor who is the youngest current Peter Parker at age 20. He's 27 years old now. And looking at where how he's progressed, I think he's doing very well. I know Legacy of Nerd, he had posted that he doesn't want him to have the boyish voice. I think we're done with that at the No Way Home, because that was the big transition for his character from losing May to having to graduate high school. Now, mind you,
giving up his world, basically.
Well, he got snapped. Remember, folks, if you saw Endgame or Infinity War, he was snapped for 5 years.
Well,
so I'm talking
about the end of No Way Home.
Oh no, I know No Way Home is we're going to get to that, because at Endgame, he gets brought back 5 years later, and then we see in No Way Home he has to readjust to life now, not only as being known as Spider-Man, because Mysterio let that out there, but he's tapped into the world of the Avengers. Like, he is an Avenger, that he knows who these other heroes are. So it's a world full of other superheroes. And then, true to form, like Dave said before, we have all these great villains that are brought from each of the Spider verses. And into this movie, and I thought it was so perfectly done because you needed to have that taste of the best. And we had the Lizard, who I loved in Amazing Spider-Man. We had Electro.
We had upgraded Electro. We had the Electro we should have had the first time.
Oh yeah, the Jamie Foxx's Electro, I think, was by far one of the best portrayals of Electro we'll ever get.
Yes. He wasn't blue anymore, thank God.
Don't worry. Listen, we don't care if it's 1 or 0. We love doing this for fun, and we know that other friends of ours are streaming at this time, so it's a work in progress. But we're going to be maybe moving things, so don't worry about that. I also wanted to say that the line I do love that he said was, you said that, have you ever seen Empire Strikes Back? I love when he says, have you ever seen that old movie Aliens?
Yeah, I said that while you were stepped away. So
I didn't hear that, but that's my favorite line from that. Now, obviously, again, money-wise, this movie was a great pandemic movie.
Oh, yes.
It was, by many people feel, this was the Endgame level event, similar to Endgame, because Endgame grossed like billions more than this and outbeat Star Wars, Jurassic Park, Avatar.
I mean, it was easily the best movie of the year, and we didn't get it till the end of the year as well.
Sadly, yeah. And I remember Lana and I went and saw this in the November. It was like November 18th, I think, when it was released. So we saw this in theaters with masks on during the pandemic, and then we watched it when it streamed a month and a half later in January in 2019. So, or not.
Yeah, we saw it in the theaters too, and it's that movie you have to see in the theaters.
Yeah, this was one of those you had to see in the theaters. I think that you would have missed out a lot.
When they brought back Doc Ock and they made him, they made Alfred Molina look the same. I mean, even William Dafoe looked pretty damn good.
Oh, his laugh was
slightly upgraded his gear a little bit. We finally get him with the torn purple hood,
which Hot Toys is made, and I think that's an amazing looking Hot Toy. I would
no pun intended.
So if you guys do not know, Sideshow makes Hot Toys, and that Hot Toy is, I think, coming out later this year.
1/6 scale is
it's a 1/6 scale action
Hot Toys branded.
So
Hot Toys is not sponsored or endorsed by this.
But we will take your 1/6 scale action figures for free and talk about them. So
yes, Hot Toys Sideshow. If you're out there and you want to endorse the Outer Dimension podcast, we will gladly do some reviews.
Oh yeah, you send 2 figures out, we'll gladly review them. Now, again, this Spider-Man, and why when Daniel made that comment about Peter Parker, if you look at the end of this movie, it was by far one of the best portrayals of him because it was that revenge focus, very similar to Garfield. Yeah. And Garfield even has that look on his face like he was going to try to stop him, but he did not. And the Spider-Man that did stop him was Tobey Maguire. And that speaks volumes because Tobey was he was the Uncle Ben. He was the Uncle Ben, let's just say. And I think that was a great turning point. Now, are we going to see a darker Peter Parker going forward? I don't think so. I think we're going to see a very different one, but that I digress. So again, Dave gave a great couple minutes.
I'll say this as far as like a darkness in him. I don't think there's a darkness in him, but I don't think we're going to get the jovial. When I say jovial, I'm talking about Peter Parker, not necessarily Spider-Man. We're still going to get the smart mouth, sarcastic Spider-Man. We might get a little bit more. But I mean, the fact that at the end of No Way Home, he makes the decision. He tells Doctor Strange, he's like, can't you dispel again? Strange is like, no, I can't. He's no, what if you make everyone forget me? He says, everyone will forget you. If no one knows who Peter Parker is, that means everyone will forget you. He's like, but it'll fix everything. And that what he does right there is not just sacrificing himself, but he's also breaking promise that he made to MJ and to Ned, that he would never make another big decision without discussing it with them. This is Peter realizing, okay, I can't go to my friends and let them know what I'm doing every time. It's a situation where I have to be in the moment and make the decision. That's a leader. And I think that's why I think Tom, even like I said, he's not my number one, but this sets or sets up Spider-Man to be a potential leader
for the Young Avengers.
For the Avengers, down the line, we can definitely see that happening.
Well, but, if they do what they're saying they're going to do with the Young Avengers, where it's going to be where like Haley Steinfeld, which is Kate Bishop, and they're going to have She-Hulk. It's where they're going to have a lot of those characters team up. I see him being like that subordinate to someone like Shuri from Black Panther, because she's very smart, but she's not a leader yet. I feel like they could play off of each other very well.
I could even see Shuri leading her own team, her own squad, of like Ironheart and a few others. I mean, there's definitely things that we could see down the line, but I definitely think that he's going to be a Peter Parker moving forward. That is, what's the right word I'm looking for? Like, when it comes to being Peter Parker, he's going to try and edge out a life for himself. He has to try and figure things out. He has to get his GED, because no one's ever heard of a Peter Parker. That means no one. So there's no which means he's going to have to forge his own. He's going to have to forge and create his own identity, because his social security number would have been given to someone else.
Exactly.
There are no records of a Peter Parker ever being born, which means he really has no parents, hypothetically speaking. He has nothing. He is completely and utterly on his own.
And just to make everybody that has seen Across the Spider-Verse, there is the joke that Miguel O'Hara makes and says that, it's not like with that kid in 1999, the 1999 made that mucked up the whole multiverse. So we do know that this movie, No Way Home, is a canon event to Into the Spider-Verse and has affected the Great Web, which I think Dave and I will, when Dave sees Across the Spider-Verse, I think we will do an actual video that explains the Spider multiverse, because there is a deep one, and it's from the comic book.
We can definitely discuss that, because that happened before the SAG after strike, so we can definitely discuss that movie, because it's beyond those restrictions. But I mean, to me, that was a defining point for him. That was him. He's no longer a kid. He's an adult now, because he gave up everything he would ever know. He gave up a future with Ned and MJ. I mean, he basically just, he stepped back and he saw that, this was bigger than him. It was bigger than them. And, even Doctor Strange, I think, realized that.
Oh, that's why he cried.
Part of me hopes that Doctor Strange actually remembers him because of some magical essence, but I would wager that No Way Home has a ripple effect into Loki season 2.
That's the other rumor that we're going to see, and that's going to be into Secret Wars. But I don't want to keep giving you guys rumors, because I can go down the whole list of things of all the news that we keep into. So what we're going to do is we're going to end it here. And here's where I'm going to end it, like how this is. You guys heard the impassioned, and I love the way Dave feels about it, about how he loves Garfield.
Yes.
And you guys heard my impassioned version of why I love Tom Holland. Everybody has a favorite Spider-Man. It can be all of them. It can be just one of them. It can be none of them. It can be just you like the animated ones or whatever. To each their own. And we respect that you guys have been extremely respectful in the chat of voicing your opinions and letting us know what you guys like. We're not sorry for spoiling these movies, because anything I follow the 1 month ban. If you have 30 days from the release of the movie to see it, after that, spoilers are free. 31st day. So, but if you guys want more in-depth deep dives, we can do that. But next week we are going to be doing a best of Batman. Who played the best Batman, and that's going to be a little bit. And it's going to be a little bit longer, because there are several bat actors that were live action.
Again, these are going to be live action only, live action movie only. We're not doing anything TV oriented. So unfortunately, Kevin Conroy will not be a part of that discussion. Anyone who's played him in a TV show or animated is not a part.
They had to be in, and this is the criteria. They had to be in a movie, meaning it was in the cinema or on VHS. Not a TV, a movie. So just giving you guys that little bit of tidbit. So Adam West did make the cut, because there was a Batman movie before they did before they did Batman.
And they had shark repellent in it. They had shark repellent.
We're not going to go into that movie. That I could deep dive into that movie. I remember seeing that in the 6th grade, and I never laughed so hard in my life when I saw.
They watched it. They played it all the time for us in grade school. But I mean, yes, And like for me, the argument is, of course, my favorite is Andrew Garfield, but even in No Way Home, there's a discussion between the three main Peters, giggity, between the three main Peters, how, Holland went into space. He was snapped out of existence for 5 years and then snapped back. I mean, out of anything, yes, he did have the most prolific, epic, ascension, so to speak, in his short time as being Spider-Man.
When you said that, I started laughing because my favorite line was when he goes, "The Avengers, no way! Who are they?" You're an Avenger? Like, no way. Who are they?
Wait, you're in the bands? No, I'm not in the band.
I'm sorry, sorry, folks. I didn't mean to interrupt Dave like that. It's just when he said that, the minute that whole scene just played through my mind, and it's hilarious.
I mean, it's Toby and Andrew, they were your neighborhood Spider-Man. That was their characters. I mean, Toby fought a symbiote from another, from outer space, obviously, but they were more neighborhood Spider-Man than they were anything else. That's not to say that they can't tackle it. I mean, personally, I would love to see a few storylines from Spider-Man the animated series to be played out. Like the very end of the animated series, they actually had a storyline where Peter teamed up with all the different Peter Parkers and Spider-Man from different worlds, including Ben Reilly.
And they called that series. There was another series that they called Web Warriors that was very similar, the same thing.
So I wouldn't mind seeing something like that. But I mean, when you look at it, who's your favorite and what are the reasons why? I mean, do they have to be an intergalactic warrior? No, not necessarily. But I will concede that Tom Holland had the most,
adventures.
I mean, just like I wouldn't necessarily say he had the most adventures, but he had the most insane comic book adventures, let's just say. I mean, going into space with Iron Man,
fighting Thanos,
getting the Iron Spider suit. Our other boys, they didn't have any armor. They just had their tights. They had their tights and their wits. But they took on Lizard and Electro. They took on Sandman,
Doc Ock, Harry Osborn, Green Goblin. So there's a lot of things. Rhino, if you count, we got to count Rhino in there, the Mecha Rhino. So, folks,
you mean dude from Big Fat Liar?
Yes. So
Paul Giamatti.
So if you guys are interested, comment below. Use on whatever channel you're watching this on. Make sure you're giving us just comment and let us know what you guys think of who's your favorite, why. Again,
don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff.
And we're going
to our socials.
So obviously you guys know that we are on X, formerly known as Twitter, at the Outer Dim Pod, which I control. We are on Instagram at the Outer Dimensions Podcast. We are at you can email us at the Outer Dimensions Podcast at gmail.com. You can also find us on our personal socials, which is me, Dre at the Collector Safe Space. You could also find Dave at Dave's Dimension on IG. Yep. And we're going to let you guys know that we are going to be at NC Comic Con. How are we going to be at NC Comic Con? Dave lives in New York and I live in North Carolina. How are we going to make that happen? Tune in next week.
It'll happen.
Tune in next week and we'll let you guys know how that's going to actually happen. And that was the news I wanted to drop today. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you everyone that has come through. I'm not going to go through rattle every single name off. You guys are amazing, and never feel you have to stifle your comments. As long as you're respectful, don't drop like major F-bombs, S-bombs in there. We try to keep it at least a little clean. We're not family friendly.
PG-13.
But at least a little PG-13. Like once you get to the F-bomb, we need one.
We try to avoid the NC-17 ratings.
Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 taught me one thing. You can get one F-bomb in a movie to keep you PG-13. That's how we do it in these episodes. We get one. Either we say it or a comment says it, and that's it. So once we get two, we're NC-17 and we got to cut you off. So, but thank you guys again for watching. My brother Dave always is awesome. We'll see you guys next week. I think we're going to try to shoot for an earlier time. Make sure you tune in, check our socials because I'll make a blast on social media about it. And thank you guys again for watching. Dave, I'm going to have you take us out this time.
Okay, guys, as always, like Dre likes to say, watch ahead on the way out through the portals, and we're always going to catch you on the flip side. So take care, guys.
Peace out, guys.